Hi beautiful souls, welcome to Rahu and Aquarius Ketu in Leo part 2, where we're going to be focusing on the theme of conscious coupling. So I've been wanting to make this video for forever, and June has been crazy, it's been busy. One of the common themes right now is burnout, so maybe you're feeling a little bit of that, whatever life is giving to you. And you know, something that I've learned through these shifts is that it doesn't matter how much, sometimes it doesn't matter how much you take off your plate. Sometimes the lesson just needs to be learned. And sometimes burnout is just one of those lessons that we have to learn as humans. And it is what it is, you know, finding that balance, because life is going to toss you some curveballs and you're going to have to find a way to navigate it to the best of your ability. So we are talking about part 2 of Rahu and Aquarius Ketu in Leo. Welcome to the channel, Soul Awakening with Shantia, where we are discussing this. And if you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend that you watch that, because this is just an extension of what I discussed in that video. So I'm not entirely sure how long this video is going to go, because when I was creating my notes for the PowerPoint, it was just a lot of notes. It was like journaling. Usually I filter out, but there was just so much. I just kept getting a lot of information in paragraphs and paragraphs of information. So that's essentially how we're going to be discussing the topic. And then, you know, anything I feel like my heart is being called to discuss, I'll start to put the focus on that if I feel called to. So let's look at our first initial image of the people that we have here. So the conscious coupling, Rahu and Aquarius Ketu in Leo transit that's happening now. When I was doing my research, or as I've been doing these video deep dive researches, I find that I can't just focus on a singular planet and its transit. I have to combine all of them, essentially. So I have another page where I have a snapshot of the chart for June 26th. It doesn't show the degrees. We're just looking at the relationships of the planets and the houses, or the bhavas, and planets are technically called grahas, how they're relating to one another. So we see how they're relating to one another. We have the outer planets, which are not considered grahas at all. According to Vedic Astrology, the 9 grahas, the main ones, those are grahas. And I'm going to include conversations about the outer planets because I've noticed a common theme in how it's been shifting the dynamic of the collective. So as we talk about things in this video, we're going to talk about how the planets together are creating this energy of conscious coupling. It's not just Rahu and Aquarius and Ketu and Leo. These planets are like families. They're families, and they're all a snapshot of the entire, I guess you could say just the world and how it's operating at that point in time in life. So we have to, when we're discussing this, we have to talk about a little bit of everything. And that's how I'm going to move forward talking about these planet transits. That's how I'm going to be discussing it. So looking at our initial image, I used AI to create this image. We have the conscious coupling energy. I felt like I need to make a part 2 because in the part 1, you know, we're kind of talking about, you know, innovation, group work, and all of this stuff going on. But from a very deeply divine perspective, there's something beautiful happening, and there's a beautiful opportunity for us to ride this wave into a higher state of consciousness. You know, we have the opportunity to rise up. And right now there's a conscious coupling that's being created between divinity and us. I've been getting these readings, these energies for, I don't know, like 3 years or so. My guides immediately, you know, guides, source, divine, through the cards, through the tarot, they kept talking about this conscious coupling. And personally speaking, just from my own life perspective, my focus has never really been relationships, romantic partnerships. It's always been just figuring out how to create peace in my life. And now that I'm at this place in my life, I can actually move forward confidently just talking about my experiences, because I just thought maybe I was behind, or I was backwards, or I didn't really understand how to grow up or how to properly adult in this world. And it turns out that subconsciously, I wasn't moving with the adulting programming of this world. Subconsciously, I was moving with the divine programming. the spiritual adulting programming of this world. And that's how I've operated my life. So there's been a lot of passivity in my life. Like, I haven't really taken action steps to create a successful outer life. In fact, every time I tried, it just felt like so many doors would close, or I personally would feel so drained. So I'm excited to talk about this conscious coupling experience and to talk about the opportunity that we have to grow within ourselves. So in the first initial image, we have angels and the humans connecting together. There is a cross, and in my meditations, the cross is symbolic for healing and surrender. Healing and surrender. A lot of my guidance is intuitive. It's just based off of what I've learned through my meditations, just sitting with ideas and concepts. And for some time, I've been getting this conscious coupling thing where in the oracle cards or in the tarot, they'll talk about marriage, they'll talk about relationships or spiritual love and romance. And I'm like, what do all of these cards mean? What do these mean? Because coming from my perspective as someone who is just more focused on trying to create peace in my life and was not interested in the programming around relationships, I started to see that they were talking about something else, and they were actually talking about this. They were talking about conscious coupling. Okay. So this is going to be really interesting to dive into this conversation and to just help people gain awareness of what's going on. What is going on? Because we put so much of an obsessive focus on accumulating things in this world, accumulating all of these things you don't need. You don't need it for fulfillment. There's nothing outside of you that fulfills you. There's nothing outside of you that fulfills you. The only truly fulfilling relationship that we have is the one we have with divine, God, source, whatever you call it. That's the only fulfilling relationship, connection, experience in our lives. And I know that from my own personal experience. That's what I would always gravitate towards, was more of that connection with divine. To me, people are finicky. People are finicky. We ourselves, we can be critical of others. We can disagree with others. So I just started to notice I didn't line up with anyone as far as belief systems went. Like, we didn't have the same, like, everyone was doing their own thing. And so some time ago, I stopped searching for that perfect person, whether that was in a friend, partner, whatever. I stopped searching for that outside of myself because I just noticed it wasn't showing up. It was too much, I don't know. And whenever I would try, it was just too much work to uphold. So I would let it go. Okay, so let's dive in. We have a snapshot here of this transit that we have the opportunity to experience. Okay, what did I just do? Okay, all right. Kind of slowed down and it loaded. Yeah. So this is the snapshot of on June 26th. I'm actually shooting this on the 29th because I was wanting to shoot this sooner, but it just sort of kept getting pushed. And I will probably officially be uploading this by July. So we currently have Venus in Aries. We got Uranus. We have the 4 significant placements of Moon on June 26th. The new moon happened in Gemini, interestingly enough, and it happened in the nakshatra of Ardra, which is what I made a presentation on. The last one was about Jupiter and Ardra, and this is significant because look at that lineup. See, this is what I'm talking about. When you start to pay attention to the transits, when you start to pay attention to how the planets line up, it blows your mind because it's undeniable what the lessons are. It's undeniable what we're here to focus on. And, I've heard people use the Western system and they have some really accurate insights. I use the sidereal Vedic system and I find that it works just as good. I'm not going to argue about which one is right or wrong. I just noticed I can see the synchronicities. I've always been drawn to Vedic astrology. I tried Western astrology for a little bit, but Vedic astrology, I couldn't stop learning about it. Just love it. So we have this lineup of Moon, Mercury, Sun, and Jupiter in Ardra, activating that air energy. And here we have Rahu, which has just shifted into Aquarius, May 18th. It shifted into Aquarius, another air sign. So there's a huge significance around the air, these ideas and these concepts According to Western astrology, Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini. So do you see, it doesn't matter what system you use, we seem to get very similar answers. We seem to get to the same destination, or the same message comes through. And with this Gemini transit, the emphasis around air energy, the significance is around the messages. Learning how to receive the messages, learning through the messages, getting what we need to hear, hearing what we need to hear for us to evolve, for us to grow, for us to take an opportunity to move through that portal or that door or into a higher state of consciousness. We have Mars, Ketu in Leo. I didn't do a video on Mars in Leo. I actually didn't realize. I was like, oh, yeah, that is kind of significant. It's they're opposite sides because Mars entered into Leo and Ketu is retrograding, right? It's moving back as the nodes do. And they're right there sharing that Leo energy. And here we got all this fire blowing up. And when I had originally done the first part 1, Rahu and Aquarius and Ketu in Leo video, I didn't take note of that. I didn't talk about that. I didn't notice it. Yet I picked up the energies of that fire that was coming through. And there you go. Mars is setting it off. And guess what? Jupiter, as we're going through these transits, Jupiter eventually is going to go into Cancer. Then it's going to go into Leo. So it's like we're just coming back to that same idea and that same theme. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So here's the brief intro. So Rahu is in Aquarius, Ketu's in Leo. Saturn is the dispositor for Rahu. Jupiter is the dispositor for Saturn. Mercury is the dispositor. Mercury is currently the dispositor for Jupiter for the time being until it shifts into Cancer. So there's a relationship forming from Rahu all the way down to, I think Jupiter has the biggest significance because Jupiter is the biggest of the 9 grahas other than Sun. Jupiter is the biggest. And so it has a huge impact as far as those transits go, as far as us collectively shifting into new dynamics. It really creates a ripple effect, a noticeable ripple effect for us. But Mercury, fast-moving Mercury, is a dispositor for Jupiter. So Mercury's running the show at the core. So Jupiter, the largest graha, the guru who brings law and order, is running the show and putting everything back into divine order. This is apparent through collective and individual lessons we are learning, Mercury. So learning is a representation of Mercury. In addition, the 3 outer grahas, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, bring collective shifts. From a higher perspective, they appear to create divine corrections, evolutions, and revolutions over a long period of time. These manifest as light worker, and healing activations where people are awakened to their healing path and abilities. The initiation imitates the energies of these grahas and their positions. So the initiation imitates the energies of these grahas and their positions. So that's just a short little love letter to Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, because I noticed that they distinctly represented a collective shift that we move into. So these outer planets have more of the longer transits. You know, Pluto is around 20 years, Uranus 7 years, Neptune 14 years. So because of their longer transits, they're shifting the collective into new dynamics in a way of being, right? They shift us into different eras of our own existence. And each of these grahas, according to Vedic astrology, have shifted into new signs, I think at the beginning of this year. Pluto shifted into Capricorn back in 2020, right when COVID happened. Bam, that was crazy reset. So when those grahas shifted, especially when they're creating conjunctions, boy, is the impact noticeable on the collective level when you see it from the highest lens. So I think it's important to use these I call them grahas here, but I was doing more research and nowhere could I find that. I couldn't find enough research to back up that these are referenced as grahas. They're referenced actually as planets or we can call them celestial bodies, I guess, or energies. But grahas, the definition for that is something that you can see in the sky. So the grahas, the 9 grahas, are all the planets that we can see with our naked eye. Okay, so moving on. Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces. Uranus is helping us reset with Krittika, and Pluto is igniting the new Earth ambitions. So Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces. I'm going to talk about each of these outer planets in this presentation specifically. And in a future video, I'm going to be talking about Pluto and Capricorn. We're going to be putting an emphasis there and talking about the new Earth ambition. So what is going to be unfolding as far as creating a new Earth goes? People have been talking about it, but guess what? It's time to start creating it, which is really exciting. What is conscious coupling? Divine union. So divine union takes us to this energy of Pisces. As soon as Neptune shifted into Pisces, this is around April 2022, I was picking up a renaissance of the sort. A renaissance is often a revival of arts and music and sciences, you know, all of this combining together and people taking pleasure in learning these experiences. But Pisces, a lot of what I've noticed in the readings is there's been a lot about this soulmate energy coming through, this twin flame energy coming through. And I was wondering, what is that? You know, and I would talk to guides or source. I would talk to them and be like, okay, what, or divinity. I asked them to explain to me what this is. This divine union is not romantic in the sense that it's not human romance. It's a chemical romance. Have you guys ever heard of, I don't know if it's a band or a song, but it's called My Chemical Romance. That was the phrase I heard in my head. And whenever random phrases pop up in my head like that, I note them because I'm sure I heard some of that when I was in school, that band, but other than that, I don't know anything about them. The phrase stuck with me. So there's a romance happening between divine and humans. This is not human romance, okay? Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards, what it's not. So endings are happening. So in order for this divine union to come together, an ending has to happen, closure has to happen, death. So according to this metaphor, when bones break, they then form a stronger bond together. So the thing that we're creating right now, this Rahu and Aquarius shift, this Jupiter in Ardra or Gemini shift, that's the bond. This is the bond. We are starting to plug into the divine like no other. We are bonding. So right now the connection, so the endings have to happen first. So we have to cut all the false connections that don't serve us, because what we're doing is we're not just creating these new connections. You have to disconnect from, because let's say you have only so many antennas or neural connections or plugs. Let's just say you have so many plugs or prongs that can plug in, right? And you can't just create new prongs or plugs. You actually have to take them out of the old system and install the new software. So we're in this place right now where we're installing our new software. But we have to close out the cycle with that Saturn in Pisces to the previous software and plug that no longer serves us. We have to disconnect. So we're disconnecting from these false ideas. And this is why we're sort of in a polarity place right now where people are feeling sort of like a lot. They're feeling like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. I like this. So they're finding out what they don't like and they're feeling drawn to what they do like. And there's a bit of confusion in the mix because there's a lot of energies that are shifting about. And I'm going to talk about that more. Like what is our job? I'll talk about it here, really. What is our job in this mix of confusion and energy shifts? How do we navigate this to the best of our abilities? So right now, the connection, Pisces, the bond seal is being established through our antennas, air, which creates the bond or seal. The bonding of atoms is created through external force or a chemical reaction. So the bonding of atoms is created through external force or a chemical reaction. In this circumstance where we're at right now, the external force is Saturn in Pisces. Saturn creates restrictions, and Saturn in Pisces creates massive restrictions. Massive psychic restrictions. So people are finding that their emotions, or they're kind of stuck in certain situations, or they're feeling stagnant, or they can't just move and go because you're being told to sit. Because Saturn has created these very strict restrictions. So it's almost like having a seatbelt on. Like when you're in the car and you have a seatbelt on, or that you put the seatbelt on the kid, you don't want the kid to fly out their seat. So you make sure the parent goes ahead and puts the seatbelt on the kid so that they're safe on their journey, transport, moving through, or going to their next destination. That's what Saturn in Pisces is. That's the seatbelt. It's keeping you in place as you're being transported to your next destination. Because you can't have the child jumping up and down and whatever. They can get hurt, So this is a really interesting time of where we're actually seeing the evidence of divine protection and how it works. Because we might be finding ourselves in like limited situations where we're like, oh, I don't really like this, but you're getting through it fine, right? You might be exhausted. You might be tired on some days. You might feel cranky on some days, but you're getting through it fine. A bond happens between a pair, human and divine. So divine could be like angels, etc. Divine has no specific form. They have endless forms. This bond happens through unification or love. So this is us coming together, unifying as one. And this happens through love. Love is evolving. That's what it means to love. Love means to commit, devotion, follow your heart, that Leo energy coming through. Jupiter is going to move into Cancer. This is where we're following more of our heart. We're listening to how we feel, what feels right. And then when Jupiter goes into Leo, our heart's going to be on fire for devotion and divine. So we must evolve. That is how the bond happens. We have to evolve. We have to move closer to them. And they're reaching out to us. We're reaching out together. We're connecting. So evolve is our love for divine and divine's love for us, which happens through conscious coupling. There you go. Rising into higher states of consciousness. Rahu in Aquarius, Jupiter in Gemini. You see, I got this bond pair with the angel and the human happening. Okay, so let's talk about what conscious coupling is not. This is not earthly, romantic, false notion of human love. This has nothing to do with soulmates, twin flames, or human relationships. Divine love is pure love for all, like a child. This love is not controlling or possessive. Real love liberates and frees. This love has nothing to do with marriage contracts. There is no obligation. There is no obligation, only a joy of devotion. So what's happening is your karmic contracts, if you so desire to, are being rewritten to become dharmic contracts, which are about joy, devotion, freedom. These are not contracts that oblige you to people. So I feel very passionate about this slide and this message because so much information. In fact, I was misguided because I was like, what's this marriage thing? Because I was so new, I was still kind of new to tarot. I wasn't really sure if this was literal. I'm like, is this message literal? I'm not really sure what you're talking about. And then I learned what divine union was. Yog, inner union. It's a union that's happening inside of you. Okay, this isn't a person. So we really have to let go of that obsession. I want to encourage you to, of any kind of obsession you have with a human partner here. Because there's so many messed up things. As far as how people love in relationships, there's just so many messed up ways that people go about it. It's very controlling. It's about power, control, ego. It's not about liberation and freedom. So no, the divine is not obligating you to marriage contracts. You are not being aligned with specific soulmate people. There's going to be so many people throughout your entire life who just help you out and who you can work with. This has nothing to do with, am I being united with my soulmate from a previous lifetime? That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Your most important job here is to evolve. Okay. And that happens inside of you. That has nothing to do with relationships and, if you get married, if you have kids, like, we're evolving out of that. We're evolving out of that understanding. No, you're not contracted to have kids. Okay. That's a choice. It's a choice that you make. But you still have to evolve. So the marriage isn't going to help you to evolve. Like, people say, oh, marriage and relationships help you to evolve. I'm like, there's no way not to have relationships in this world. You're human. You're going to run into people. You're going to be around people all the time. You're going to have to know how to be around people. So by the nature of just existing, people will show up in your life. You don't have to. There's no need to obsess about, is this my soulmate? Honestly, there's so many people who showed up in my life. We just lined up. We lined up, and then we invested in the relationship over time. But I'm at this point in my life right now where, a lot of those attachments have like just disintegrated because of the weight, the burden that comes with relationship responsibility. It's a lot. It just always felt like a lot to me. And so, I just try to be there and support people. And it's a beautiful exchange of energy and community. It's a beautiful exchange of energy and community. But by the end of the day, I want to evolve. And that has nothing to do with, whether I show up for someone's birthday or this or that. I'm like, we're just going to be around each other. And there's always going to be community around you to support you, whether that's your boss at your job or something, or, your coworker. There's just always going to be someone there, a stranger on the street who just gives you the advice you need. And I feel like that's the way life has always worked for me. There's not this dependency of expecting that this has to show up in a specific person. I just don't have those. I don't want anyone to put that pressure on me to be like, I expect you to be all of this for me. That's so much pressure. I'm like, I don't expect that. And guess what? Because I don't put that pressure on other people, they don't put that pressure on me either. They just have to let go of those false notions because it doesn't hold up with me. I'm like, I'm not going to pretend for you to be these things. So you're just going to have to accept me as this is my authentic expression, which is I'm just me. And I don't have those beliefs about relationships in that way. So earthly obligations create bondage and karma. So subconsciously, I picked this up because the things just always felt so burdensome to me. Everything, job, work, money, owning things, relationships, they all felt like bondage and karma to me because they are. Everything of this earthly realm is bondage and karma. So that's why it's better just to enjoy what comes and goes out of your life, however it wants to come and go. There's no need to attach to it. The attachment creates so much suffering and misery for us. Always. Every single time. So you actually have to, I have it. It's not like I don't have attachment to people. Like, some of that does show up. I actually have to check myself before I wreck myself. As far as attachment goes, I have to make sure I'm not overly attaching myself because people are free to be who they are. Because when I start attaching myself, I start creating expectations, right? Okay, this person needs to be this way. And, no, people are going to do what they're going to do. And they should feel free and be free to be and do and figure out life however they want to, as I hope that they would offer that back to me too. So real love will show up when you detach from your need of detachment to everything. We have no idea what real love is most of the time. And it has nothing to do with this, like, all that romantic stuff. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even enjoy shows and movies the same way. Like, things have shifted so much this past year. When I'm watching things, I feel like a scientist studying insects. Like, I'm just like, what are these people doing? I've always felt that way, but I just can't fall into the fantasy as much as I used to. I could get away with it before, but these days I'm just like, that's not realistic. There's just so much fantasy. Like, people are fulfilling their fantasies through these characters they write about, they create, and that's just not real life. Okay? It's just a fantasy, and it's not real, and it's not fulfilling either. So real love will show up when you detach from your need of attachment to everything. Validation in all forms: worldly success, trophies, people, money, career, excess materialism. So often we attach ourselves to these ideas and these expectations of relationships because we were programmed to think that that's what we are supposed to do. We were programmed to think that we're supposed to have all these people in our lives, and that the more people that we have in our lives, the more this is a representation of our success. I remember growing up watching that, people being like, well, the more people you impact. No, it's about the right impact. It doesn't matter how many people you impact. It's about making the right kind of impact to the people who want to listen, actually, because sometimes people are going to show up in front of you and they're not interested in what you have to say, and that's fine. But it's about making the right impact in someone's life. Even you living your true authentic pathway can help someone, to wake up a little bit, become maybe a little bit more conscious, maybe more self-reflective, and think. Maybe they're actually dissolving their karma through you, because even though they don't fully understand, by them accepting your authenticity, they're dissolving some of their karma, where they're, putting harm onto themselves. So we're often seeking validation. That's it. That's all it is. Oh, I need to get married. I need to get engaged, be in relationships, have kids. All of this, I honestly, I don't know how to express this, but we attach ourselves to these things because we think it's going to get us something, some sort of acceptance from society and the world. And it just don't exist. It's so unfulfilling. Let's say you get those things. You're just like, I feel nothing. I thought, you think to yourself, I thought I was going to feel something when I got this. I thought I was going to feel something. And so, all those people on Instagram who are accumulating all that stuff in the world, they're still figuring that out. So maybe you are figuring some of this out for yourself too. But a lot of our attachment to anything is just due to validation of programming, because we think, oh, the world needs to see me in this light in order for me to be accepted. Because at the core, we crave love and acceptance, which you give to yourself. No one has to give that to you. No one can give it to you. So yeah, people are going to have to keep reliving those karmic experiences until they realize it's just not fulfilling, and it never is. And we see it in the movies all the time. And still people idolize these people. They create shrines around them, idolizing them. Even though we've seen it in millions of movies, plenty of times, the lesson over and over again, divinity just putting it right in our face, we refused to accept it, the truth. And that's part of the weird thing of the world and existing, is that we refuse the truth, even though it's right in our face. I always wanted to know. I'm like, oh, is that going to make me miserable, or is that going to make me unhappy? And, I did enough. I tried out enough. I tested enough to realize, yeah, not fulfilling. I got enough. I'm trying a different route here, because this is not working. As real love transforms you, your desire for false material love will dissipate, and spiritual love will fulfill you. So as real love transforms you. Real love is transformative because it's about evolution. That's how you know you're experiencing real love, because you're transforming, you're evolving. Your desire for false material love will dissipate, and spiritual love will fulfill you. So any attachment to life needing to look or be a certain way, any sort of attachment to the way it needs to look, it doesn't have to just be material, that will dissipate. Your desire, my desire this past year for a lot of things have just kind of gone out the window. It's weird. It's like, wow, my body used to have certain chemical reactions to things, and now I don't feel nothing. I've been reprogrammed, and I just don't feel I don't feel the excitement that I used to doing some things. Okay, that's a good sign. To truly love another, you must learn to love yourself as you are, stripped of all attachments, rock bottom, and surrendered. So maybe that last part is controversial because people might be like, I have to hit rock bottom in order for me to know. I honestly, when I think about some of the teachers out here who've truly inspired me, they've experienced times in their life where they're just like, they're living on the bare minimum. And this just happened in my life, karmically, naturally. This just happened in my life. And I think rock bottom is a huge blessing, especially if you hit it like in your older age. Maybe not too old, but yeah, maybe like 30s, 40s, 20s, you're still like up and down trying to figure out who and what you are at that time. But I think it's really good to hit a rock bottom at some point because you have to learn to love yourself. And what a lot of people do is like a lot of celebrities' stories, and I thought maybe they had the answer before, is they would hit a rock bottom and they would be like, oh no, I gotta work harder. And so they would work hard and they would gain the good fruits of their labor from working hard, and they would gain all of the material success after they put in all of that work. Maybe some of them were born into poverty and experienced that rock bottom, so they worked so hard to get the material stuff. So, life gives you two paths, okay? You have a choice. You can choose more to accumulate more material things, or you can choose to surrender your desires and be like, whether it's fulfilled or not, I'm cool, I'm down. But hitting rock bottom is such a blessing because then you have to learn to love yourself with nothing. You got no title, you got no, huge amount of money in the bank account, you got no nice house, relationship, whatever. Then you're just like, dang, I gotta just like myself as I am. And I think from a lot of the people who inspired me, like Gary Zukov or Eckhart Tolle, I feel like they all hit a rock bottom at some point where they just didn't get any of that success, notoriety, attention. They were just spending that time in isolation, and at some point they just learned to love themselves in that space. And I think that's the huge collective theme that we're going through. Money has been showing up like nobody's business in a lot of these readings, right? So I know for sure, especially with that Pluto in Capricorn, a lot of people are going through that revolution, that transformation, that radical transformation, even with Uranus and Taurus around finances, right? All dependent on consciousness, because universe is saying evolve. Humans, let's go. You need to evolve your thinking when it comes to your relationship to these material experiences here, and prioritize what is important. So stripped of all attachments, because I find that when people get the success, let's say they're like, oh, let's manifest it, and they get the success, that's all they know, and then they don't think that there's anything else to evolve higher to, because they feel like they've achieved the pinnacle, and then they just keep steady with that. But I find that, truly loving yourself with nothing, oh my God, that's a huge blessing. You should take advantage of that. Well, that's happening. Okay, so the themes with Aquarius, we have this. Aquarius is that representation of that inner network, right? 11th house, inner network. Teacher, student energy, learning, speaking, new ideas. Aquarius is also penance. Aquarius is considered to be one of the more karmic signs. People would say this. I have Aquarius in my chart, by the way, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Innovation. Nah, that's a karmic sign, okay? As someone who went through their Saturn return, Aquarius is quite karmic. That was a time of like no success for me. It was a time of exploration creatively, but no like material success. I think spiritually, lots of success. Lots of success. I learned so much during my Saturn return about myself. But it's a really good opportunity for penance, because Aquarius kind of forces us to like navigate that collective energy. It says, the universe says, hey, do the work. We need you to contribute to the collective in some way. So we need you to do this work. That's what Aquarius is. That's what we've been experiencing with Saturn moving through Aquarius, and now Rahu's in Aquarius. Here is that theme is repeating again. And is there anything else? And then Pluto, 2040 is going to shift into Aquarius too. So again, very intense. So we got Leo here. Leo is focused on ancestral gifts, karma, the heart, ego dissolution, because we got Ketu there, and true power. So, Leo energy is really interesting. When you read about the nakshatras, you would think Leo is like, oh, ego, ooh, it's all about me. Not necessarily. Everything has an evolved and a devolved understanding. Leo is actually here to help burn away the ego. So I think there's nothing that burns away the ego like this Leo energy, because it brings the ego to the forefront. But I'm going to bet you that if someone is more on a conscious path, or they're rising into higher states and higher levels, they have to face authority a lot. People have told them, you don't know what you're doing, you need to listen. You don't know what you're doing, you need to listen. So Leo energy is actually at the root, is here to dissolve your ego. Whether Ketu is there or not doesn't matter. The core root understanding of Leo energy is to burn away the ego. It burns away the ego. You got sun there, the fireball. Yes, if you have a sun in Leo, it's helping to burn away your ego. It might put you in leadership positions, but I bet you're going to have to deal with like employees, people under you who resist your authority, who tell you don't know what you're doing. Like, it's just going to test your patience a lot. And it's going to challenge you to be confident, to constantly challenge yourself to be confident. Okay. So we have the air balloon, right? As we're rising to higher states of consciousness, that's essentially what we are collectively doing. That's what the conscious coupling is. Rise, and join the divine. Join their party. Join the gods in the clouds. That was one of the first visions I got for a collective reading. Party with the gods. Join them. So the main idea, I put this here. I was going to put it at the end, but I put it in the middle here. Every conscious choice we make starts at the subconscious. If you repeat an idea, especially out loud, or repeatedly expose yourself to it, it creates an echo that seeps into our subconscious. Shifts of higher states of consciousness happen in the subconscious through radical surrender. So long as you keep fighting the natural flow of life, you resist your inherent ability to levitate. No force or rituals needed. Just a shedding of false titles, constructs, and habits that no longer serve you. These fall away due to your commitment and your commitment to curiosity and humility. As your ego dissolves and moves into its correct position, which is at the back of the line or in the back seat, you will rise like a hot air balloon on a summer day. You gain your power back. When you feed the ego and claim you lose power. We still operate at different levels of and then this is my other note. We still operate at different levels of consciousness. While many have an opportunity to ride the air balloon up by embodying the divine child and releasing control, the choice to descend will always be an option. Okay. So the main idea, even though we're being called to evolve and we're being called to embrace this conscious coupling, it's still a choice. You still have a free will choice to do it or to not do it, because everyone's operating at different levels of consciousness. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to redirect all of my content, including my readings, towards this understanding of we all have the same opportunity here. No one's special. No one's special. We all have the same opportunity to grow. We all have the same opportunity to rise into those higher states of consciousness. See, this is why, when you're given the glitter gold earlier in life, you think, oh, I'm better. I must have been so great to deserve this. And in truth, we're all equal. Like, we all have an equal opportunity or chance to rise into those higher states of consciousness. And that's important for people to be aware of. Every choice you make starts at the subconscious level. So behind the scenes, you know, as you're, whatever books and information you're exposing yourself to, these are creating mantras. They're reprogramming you ever so subtly. We're in a learning period right now, right? Where we're learning how to activate our antennas and hear and receive those messages with clarity and then embody them. And this is what's helping to reprogram the subconscious. So this happens over a slow, gradual period of time where we're constantly exposed to a certain message and eventually we're called to act on it. So for some time, I feel like in my subconscious, a lot of this information was already made available, maybe with that moon in Sagittarius energy and then 3 planets in the 12th house, the desire for moksha, liberation for me, and for truth has just always been intense. So I had that information available, but acting on it has been a gradual process, embodying it, because you still have the programming of the world that's telling you, no, do this, no, do it like this, do it like be like everybody else. And subtly resisting it is what helped to reprogram my subconscious to embrace this pathway ultimately. So if you repeat an idea, so this is the air energy, that Rahu, Aquarius, and Jupiter, Gemini. If you repeat an idea, especially out loud, or you expose yourself to it, it creates an echo. So an echo that seeps into the subconscious. Shifts of higher states of consciousness happen in the subconscious through radical surrender. So at the core, what's actually getting us into those higher states of consciousness is embracing the role of being a divine child and acknowledging you don't know. This is what I'm constantly, like when I do my readings and I just open myself up in meditation, I never go in thinking I know anything. I'm a blank slate. And I think this has been the most helpful in terms of helping me to shift my life, to embrace it. It's just like, oh, I don't know. I don't really know what the perfect way to do this. I just know I'm an instrument, I'm a vessel for which these energies can be embodied. And so I'm just applying it to the best of my ability. But funny enough, actually embracing the divine child role is what's going to help you to levitate into these higher states of consciousness. So this is where people get into, they hit walls when they think they're this priest, this divine messiah who has been given all the answers. They hit walls because their ego is already taken a hold of that, and it's created another false construct for them. So we have to constantly humble ourselves and bow down to the divine and be very curious and just open to the experience. So divinity will let us know little bits here and there, kind of what's going on, general ideas and concepts. But I constantly adjust. I constantly reset and I constantly adjust because I always want to be the divine child. And I want to be willing to release control as much as possible. Because boy, is it so tempting to try to control your life and just think, oh, I'm a mature adult and I know how to make choices. I have gotten to the point where I realize, dang, I'm always going to feel like this. I'm never going to feel like I know the answers, or I'm an authority at all. I'm always just going to be a divine child who plays in the divine play of life. And the confidence just comes out naturally. I don't need to like claim my power and claim my confidence and rah, look at me. Look how powerful I am with my spiritual powers here. No, it doesn't matter. What matters is just that I stay committed to the curiosity and humble to the work. That is how you rise. People want to push you around. Yeah, just sit back, let it go. Let it go. So just a shedding of false titles, constructs, and habits no longer. So there's no force that's needed. This isn't something where it's like, well, if I just meditate for 30 hours a day, 30 hours a day. If I just meditate for 8 hours a day, I will get there. No, you can't. This isn't something you can meditate your way through. There's no ritual for this. There's no ritual for this. The rituals kind of create routine and habits for you to align your mindset. But I've actually found that I'm a routine person, but I'm not a strict like meditation person or ritual person. I just never I don't know. I just never felt like that. No title, no, it's the same reason why I would never get a tattoo. It's just like, I feel like I'm a constant shapeshifter all the time. And it almost just makes me feel like I don't know like anything. So I rather just embrace that rather than try to think, oh yeah, I totally know everything that's going on, what divinity is doing. It's more like I'm passionate. I let my passion guide me when it comes to these conversations and these discussions. It's my passion that drives me to coming off, the confidence, just like, me sounding confident in my ideas. But by the end of the day, I confidently just love life. And I'm just confident that divinity will talk through me if they want to. So I let it happen if it's happening, right? So as your ego dissolves and moves you into its correct, so the ego's here, we have an ego. I never felt like this idea of like destroy the ego, died it. Like that felt weird to me saying that. I'm like, I don't want to kill anything. But to me, this idea of the ego taking the back seat, if you watch my Divine Child videos where I talk about the Divine Child's journey to Kingship or Queenship, I always talk about how the ego takes a back seat. Just it has to get back there. That's its correct position. It has to watch everything. And it's not here to inherit anything. Nothing belongs to it. Yeah, so you start to rise like a hot air balloon to those higher states of consciousness. You're just floating up, you're levitating up like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. It's a beautiful ride. You gain your power back. When you feed the ego and claim you lose power. Yeah. So it's just that beautiful openness, just like children have, that is liberating. It liberates you, because this idea of holding on to things and holding on to beliefs and ideas and holding on to this false sense of knowing keeps you so dense, so heavy. Like, it's the people who always claim that they have the answers or they know how things are supposed to be done. Their energy, when I'm around it, it feels so dense. And I'm light, man. I'm just like, I'm a lot lighter. I have density in me too. Definitely being around my 5-year-old nephew has taught me that. I have a lot of density I have to work on because he's light as a feather. And I'm like, Doug, how do I get like that? Whatever he's doing, I need to do that. You gain your power back. So when you feed the ego and you claim you lose power, we all still operate at different levels of consciousness. Yes. So release control, because the choice to descend is always available. Right, so planetary relationships. So Saturn is conjunct Neptune currently in Pisces. They are, as of June 26th, when I take that snapshot of the planets, they are at the same degree, 7 degrees. 7 heaven. So they are at the same degree. So, whenever I hear that whenever planets are conjunct, they starve one another, I don't really care about that conversation or that talk. To me, what I've learned is when planets are tightly conjunct like that, they're intuitive. They're a little unpredictable and they're intuitive. Because I have a very close conjunction with my Mercury and Jupiter. And it's a very intuitive experience. You can't think about it. How do we do this? You don't think about it. So Saturn is that representation of like rules, restrictions, career, legacy, whatever you put a lot of work and determination into. And then we got Neptune. So we're kind of feeling out something right now energetically. As far as this union and communion goes with divinity, we're feeling it out. Okay, there's no permanent way, specific way. There's no rules or regulations on how to do this, even though we got Saturn. By the end of the day, these grahas here and planets here are here to teach us how to evolve. So this is potent energy. And I think they're in Uttara Bhadrapada. Did I say it right? Uttara Bhadrapada. Which is the Cinderella nakshatra is how I like to think of it. It's also, I think, ruled by Jupiter. So there we go, another connection to Jupiter. And guess what? Looking at the planets here, we got Pluto in Capricorn. Dispositor Pluto is Saturn, which is conjunct Neptune. The dispositor of Saturn is Jupiter. dispositor of Jupiter is Mercury. So everything keeps going back to Jupiter as far as what's running the show. Because Jupiter has that influence over Uttara Bhadrapada, where Saturn and Neptune are currently. And Purva and Uttara Bhadrapada are kind of about that karmic penance, the law and order. Jupiter is that guru and teacher who's, reinforcing these belief systems. And right now we're getting a lot of divine order belief systems. So divinity is kind of telling us, they're giving us the rule book. They're showing us how things work and how things are done, what we need to do to evolve, what we're being called towards, and how do we need to close out these cycles as well. And we're stepping more into this beautiful renaissance that it's igniting. It's already ignited, but we have a beautiful renaissance that will be igniting even further as Jupiter helps us to close out that cycle in Pisces and then moves into Aries. So Jupiter enters into Cancer on October 18th. It's exaltation sign, which creates a strong sense of emotional well-being during energetic shifts. So I don't worry about or get distracted by whatever is going on in the world. The whole point of the matrix is to distract you with a lot of chaos. And during this time, Jupiter eventually is going to shift out of that intense, stormy, ardra energy. He's going to shift into Purnavasu, which is like good again, light again. That is going to be Pusha. And these energies are going to help us to lighten up because we're going to feel more of an emotional well-being. We're also going to be learning about emotional well-being. How do we create emotional well-being? So I feel like Jupiter is actually helping us to get all of the necessary nutrients we need to create this new Earth. It went through Aries, Taurus, now it's in Gemini, and then Cancer. These are the basics. 1 through 4 are about the basics because these are the first initial zodiac signs, right? So we have, Aries, first fire sign, Taurus, first earth sign, Gemini, first air sign, and Cancer. So it's giving us like the initial starting point information of how to go about doing something. And then it's going to move into part 2 where Jupiter is going to shift into Leo. That's when things are really going to set off. You will see it. Okay. Yes, and then we have Rahu in Aquarius, which its dispositor is Saturn. And then, we have that trail again that's happening with the planets. Okay, so let's talk about Neptune in Pisces. So this transit started on... Neptune entered into Pisces in April 2022. And will be there until March 2036. So this is about a 14-year transit. Neptune in Pisces, when evolved, brings spiritual communion. That's the conscious coupling, and reunion. So this, I've been seeing in the readings over and over, they keep talking about a reunion. This is not an earthly human contract. This is spiritual. And when you create this inner spiritual union inside of you, you can meet people. Whoever needs to show up in your life, however people show up in your life, they will be there. When devolved, it brings escapism and addiction to lower desires and pleasures. So there's always 2 sides to the story. And the other side of the story is that a lot of people are going through major spiritual psychosis right now. Escapism, addiction to lower desires and pleasures. Okay. What is this, the degrees here? Yeah, so Purva Bhadrapada was 20 degrees Aquarius to 3 degrees, 320 Pisces from April 2022 to January 2005. So you see that? It shifted into, Saturn shifted into Uttara Bhadrapada around January, and it's been there since, and it's going to be there until August of this year. Then guess what, guys? It's moving into, sorry, I said Saturn. I meant Neptune. Hold on. Is this, I'm not entirely sure, but I have here for Neptune. So it looks like it'll be moving into Revati around August. So Revati is it's actually considered the wealth nakshatra. But Revati, particularly, it's the last nakshatra of the 27 portals. the 27 constellation portals. And Revati is a representation of that culmination of all the energies of all the zodiac signs, the culmination, the ending, the closure to the story. And then what happens when the story ends? You inherit, right? This is what we're going to be inheriting, that new dynamic here. So you're inheriting the wealth of knowledge. It's an opportunity to inherit Neptune dreams. What is the dream of the divine, for us to create? What is the dream that's being poured into us? And I will be talking about that in the New Earth video as well. What is the dream? What are we being called to build here? And Revati is going to show us that. It's going to direct us towards it. So it looks like August. Oh, August of next year. Okay, I got you. So until then, Neptune will be in Uttara Bhadrapada until next year. And funny enough, around that time, I wrote it somewhere else, but Ketu will be in Magha, Rahu will be in Dashnishta, and this is all about inheritance. All of these are about inheritance of good karma. So yeah, everything will be showing up, aligning with that theme of like good karma, the fruits of your labor. So Neptune in Purva Bhadrapada, to me, it sent out the call. So when it entered into that part of Pisces, it really sent out that call collectively for people to listen. This is when I created my channel. This is when I created my YouTube channel. Right that year. Was it that year? Yeah, it was April. I created my channel in June. Solstice. Funny enough, almost right on the solstice. So we got Neptune in Uttara Bhadrapada will complete the connection and the inner union. So this is my belief, is that Neptune in Uttara Bhadrapada will solidify that connection. And Neptune in Revati will ignite the work of divinity on Earth. So now that we have all of this information, this guidance, the wisdom, we have the full download of the dreams that divinity has been trying to give to us. Now we can start going about creating it. But right now we don't have the full picture. We're still receiving the information. So before let's say if you're being trained for a job position, you have to go to school for it. Divinity is training us on Earth School. They're helping us to receive the insight and the knowledge that we need to create this new Earth. That's what that Neptune is. It's giving us all of those dreams and downloads for how we're being called to create this. And they're also upgrading us. They're upgrading us with abilities to do this, capabilities to do this. Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto entered into Capricorn on February 25th, 2020, and will be there until 2040. That's about a 20-year transit. So Pluto is currently in Uttara Ashada. Uttara Ashada is 26 degrees Sagittarius to 10 degrees Capricorn, and it will be there until 2030. So funny enough, it entered 2020, so this is right around COVID time. This is right around the time it exploded here. Uttara Ashada is sattvic. So sattvic is more of like a spiritual approach to life, attunement to life. We have that element of fire. We have the dosha of kapha. Kapha is earth and water. And the focus to me of Uttara Ashada, it's dharma. So why do we keep getting these messages about dharma? Uttara Ashada. Uttara Ashada started giving us this dharma. I started writing songs right when Pluto was in Uttara Ashada. Yes, I started writing songs in 2019. I started hearing these messages about it was time. It was time to reborn. And then here I am 5 years later, still working on that rebirth. But divinity was giving us those messages right around that time, straight up telling us you need to get out of this job. You need to leave this dynamic because it's time to evolve. I consider this nakshatra to be like a warrior, pretty fierce, because it's related to Ganesh, who got his head cut off by, I don't know if it was Shiva, and his head was replaced with an elephant. So this is about discipline, leadership, victory through perseverance. Uttara Ashada is connected to the 10 Vishadevas, or the Vishadevas, which is the universal gods. And then it's specifically connected to elephant tusk, victory, which represents victory and authority. So the elephants have been coming up a lot in the readings too. This is about putting in consistent work and energy over a long period of time. So this specifically, this nakshatra energy was coming through before 2020. I don't know the exact dates here, but before 2020, it started showing up for us. So to me, this is how I see it. Pluto's death and rebirth. You add Uttara Ashada into the equation. That's Dharma. So this is the rebirth of life purpose. Everyone's getting a new life purpose upgrade. And this is not something you can rush. And I know people are like, okay, now's the time, we got to do it. Oh, this is the year. No, there's no urgency. That's not how life works. Everything is gradual. We are fragile humans. It takes time for us to take out the old software, put in the new software. It takes a gradual process. So this is an opportunity for us to this is an end of a karmic cycle of the sort, right? That Pluto and Capricorn, death and rebirth, and the start of dharmic cycles. So again, Uttara Ashada is connected to Dharma. So I think the karmic cycle is definitely being put to end with that Saturn in Pisces transit. And we're getting a lot of information with that Pluto and Capricorn, insights and information for how to transform to embrace our dharmic cycle that here on Earth. So the karmic cycles are ending on Earth. The dharmic cycles are starting on Earth. And in order for you to thrive on Earth, to survive on Earth, you're going to have to learn how to work with the dharmic cycles. A better way of being and existing. Pluto in Uttara Ashada is disciplining and prepping us for what's to come next. This will inactivate war or karmic cycles, as the collective goal will become dharma instead of building karma. So I think we have reached somewhat of a peak in karma at this point in time. People are like, oh, it's so chaotic, it's crazy. And yeah, you're going to continue to see that. It's just the collective consciousness is shifting towards dharma right now. And you're really going to feel this, 2040 to me, around that time and that period is where it's going to be more apparent that people are more in a dharmic space in life. And that's when you're going to start to feel more of the positive. But we're still at the beginning stage of this shift. So Saturn is also karma. Pluto and Capricorn rebirths the collective into new types of duties or a dutiful life. When Pluto enters into Aquarius, the collective will rebirth to assimilate deeper synchronicities. Aquarius is a very karmic sign that enforces change for the collective. So when Pluto enters into Capricorn, that's even more pressure to do the right thing because you have to be a humanitarian in that energy. Capricorn is more about, creating a different type of legacy, right? It's like, what are you building here on Earth? And you're being called to build something different. All the planets are here to offer you an opportunity to evolve. So they want you to build something that's going to evolve your consciousness on Earth. But when Pluto moves into Aquarius, by that time, the pressure is going to become more intense, but by that time we'll be more prepped, right? With this initial work of embracing Dharma. So that's going to be more of the conversation. Oh, what's Dharma? We've been talking about karma for years, but now people are like, okay, or the divinity is saying it's time to move on from karma and move into Dharma. It's time to move into Dharma. Start talking about that because when Pluto moves into Aquarius, you're going to have to embrace the Dharma. Otherwise, life is going to be very miserable. So we have here Uranus and Krittika. So Uranus entered into Krittika this year. Uranus in Krittika is 26 degrees Aries to 10 degrees Taurus. And so Uranus just entered into the Taurus part of Krittika, I think, recently. Uranus and Rohini, it'll be moving there in 2026. To me, that's when we're going to see more of the creating manifestations and building. See, look at how everything is just lining up. Because Rohini is more about manifestation, creation, and building, but Aries is more about that ignition, right? It's about igniting your passion to create something. So with that Uranus, this is about the collective mindset. We're getting the mindset and fresh new ideas to passionately create something different. Like, let's start talking about it. Let's start, thinking about what kind of ideas, how we can approach it. But Rohini we're just going to have this sort of divine flowy inspiration for knowing how to create it. Things are going to flow a lot more better as far as creating things. Uranus in Taurus is the new earth activation and building. Krittika is that baptism by fire, purification. It's connected to authority, truth, energy of fire, and sun. Yeah, so Krittika is a sun nakshatra. It's a very intense purification nakshatra. I personally have gotten to know about this through people who I'm related to. My son isn't a sun nakshatra, and I have to tell you, the sun nakshatras are all in earth signs. And you would think, oh, this is such an earthly sign. These are purification signs. So even though it's in a feminine earth sign, they actually come off as quite masculine, which is interesting. Very direct, a little alpha, just depending on the person and the personality sometimes. But these nakshatras can come off as quite alpha energy, quite intense. Uranus in Krittika brings forced collective purification, fiery innovative change. It's the ignition, the boiling point, and also a lot of hypercritical viewpoints that force us to creates the necessary pressure to change and new healing modalities with light. So the Uranus in Krittika, there's been so much opinions on the internet and things are just getting so fired up. But with Uranus shifting into the Taurus dynamic, I think things are going to ground a little bit more. People are going to calm down a little bit. But we also have Mars and Ketu and Leo, so maybe not that much. But I think when Uranus enters into Rohini, it'll be more peaceful, more harmonizing, because that's what Rohini is. It's much more harmonizing nakshatra because it's ruled by the moon. But Krittika itself is ruled by the sun. Okay, so this energy is very intense in terms of people sharing their opinions. It's a very opinionated nakshatra about its viewpoints. But sometimes when we need those opinions, we need those pressures, even within us, to be like, okay, I have to change now. Otherwise, we would be lazy and we wouldn't change. So Uranus creates a restructuring. It also activates radical change and thinking, creates a sudden sharp turn. I honestly think that what it's helping people to do, it's helping them to double down on their viewpoints and things that they believed in before. And that's what it's done for me. It's like I feel like I've doubled and tripled down on things I've always believed in, because I'm like, okay, I'm ready to fully embrace this. And it also creates disruptions. So Uranus specifically is, could be related to Rudra and Shiva. And this is Jupiter in Ardra, is again that connection of Rudra and Shiva. And Uranus is related to Agni. So I was kind of like Googling, getting some information on Uranus. And they said it would be a very good representation of Rudra, which is like lightning and storm, Shiva, lightning too, and Agni, fire, which, funny enough, is Krittika. Krittika is like that Agni, it's that fire. So I think Uranus and Krittika really gains a lot of momentum in terms of directing change. So it gains power and its purpose magnifies because a planet that's all about radical change is in a sign that is about fiery purification and change. So the energies are very much aligned. So when Uranus moves into Rohini, this is going to give us the next steps into what's coming up. Rohini is about fertility. So this is where you're going to see the fruits of your labor. People are going to start creating things, making things, manifestations, art creation, divine creation, union. So if there ever be a human union, I think that's a beautiful time for beautiful unions to be created, with Uranus being about the collective energy. This is going to be helping us to focus on collective building. So usually things happen more successfully when we're able to build it together. And this would be a good opportunity next year, 2026, that'll be a beautiful opportunity for people to get on board with finally creating these new earth concepts and ideas. In combination with Rahu in Capricorn, Dashnishta, Ketu in Magha, Jupiter in Purnavasu, first Purnavasu, then Pusha, and then third Magha, Saturn in Revati, 2006 will bring the initial results of a new beginning of good karma as old cycles close out. This appears to be the sun at the end of the tunnel, which as Saturn enters into Aries will ignite the next collective cycle. So I think by next year, this is where people are going to inherit, right? So let's say you inherit money, right? You inherit gold, you inherit a house, whatever. Let's say universe blesses you with something. Well, after that, you get to decide what to do with it. So before you build the house, you need resources to build it with. And that's what I think next year is going to be about. It's going to be about the reset of gaining different resources, karma-free, perhaps resources, to build the new earth. And then we start building the new earth. But first you need the resources. Maybe you need the money to pay for the resources you need to build your beautiful new earth here. So that's what my intuition told me. It's like, okay, oh yeah, we got to inherit whatever the resources, the money you need to build, to create things. You need the funds. So I think next year is going to be about, okay, funds are showing up, resources are showing up. Whether that's people, money, whatever, it's showing up. Now we can start building. But right now, we're still receiving those messages, those ideas and insights for what we need to create this new earth. Okay, so that is the end of this presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was long. But I think all of the messages came through. I was passionate. I just wanted to help people to understand, to discern what is conscious coupling, because there's a lot of assumptions about these romantic things, and not to say those that won't show up. Of course, we build in community. Naturally, we're stronger in community and we're stronger in numbers. But first we have to do our own personal work. And I'm saying let go of the obsession or the fixation on that, because that's not what we're here. Like, that's not going to create the fulfillment. You have to create fulfillment with yourself first, without the attachment to any worldly success. That is what true fulfillment is. It's happening inside of you through that conscious coupling. And then things will show up to match that energy and that frequency. So do not fret about anything that you think is going on. Don't get distracted by numbers or comparing yourself or your lifestyle. There's nothing here on earth that we need to take with us into our next incarnation, or if we evolve. There's nothing here on earth that you need to take with you. You experience the lessons. And so long as you humble yourself to being a divine child, you're doing the work. That is the work. You levitate when you become Charlie instead of trying to become Willy Wonka. You levitate when you become Charlie. Charlie's the one who inherited the Wonka factory because he had a pure heart. All right, I'm going to leave it on that. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, part 2, Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo. Have a beautiful day or evening. I'll see you next time. Bye.